Early Childhood Center in North Little Rock. Before we were a preschool, we were an elementary school, and the elementary school had a long-running partnership with Fellowship Bible Church, which is located across the parking lot. They wanted to continue that relationship when we became a preschool, and there were lots of input and ideas, and the garden is kind of what derived from those. Our garden is a collaborative effort with the North Little Rock School District, with Fellowship Bible North, and with great support from the city of North Little Rock. And we are excited to share our garden with you today. I think we've got a short video where you can kind of see the kids interacting with the garden. Like we said, we have the great support from the city, and our garden we wouldn't have our garden if it wasn't from the grants we received from the Fit to Live project. And we started off with our little garden beds. Each class had a half bed to share, and the next year we kind of upgraded. Now we have 2 double raised beds per class. We have 12 classes at our school, and then we have 8 beds that are community beds that we share with the church. And if different children kind of have some different ideas of some things they want to do, they're able to put those in the middle beds of our garden. We have a new teaching pavilion. We have a compost bin that we're working on. We got the shed from the grant, and we have just received, we got the greenhouse in this year, and we just got to, break it in before the pandemic hit. And Heather's going to touch more on Fit to Live and the partnerships a little bit later. We have 2 main garden days each year. We have one in the fall and one in the spring. We also have several throughout the year after school where parents are able to come at pickup time and work, or really on the weekends. We have a lot of kids and families that come up, and they want to show their parents the garden. They get ideas that they want to take some things home and they want to plant. Here are some pictures of us getting on. The bottom picture is the very beginning of our journey. We put the beds together. The children helped us put the dirt, the sand, the soil, the weed mats, and you can kind of see how it's progressed over the time. But it's a great time for families and the community to come out and lend a hand and, really take ownership of the garden. The garden, my second child will be attending Pikeview this year. My first child attended, and the garden was a crucial element to his learning. That was his place to shine, and he really connected with the garden. There's lots of oral language, the responsibility, the respect it brought us. You'll see here the children going out to plant their crops. Lots of literacy was involved with deciding and voting what they wanted to plant, how to arrange it. We had to research, different plants for different seasons, what plants worked well together, what did not. And just every day they'd want to go, okay, I want to go see if it grew. We'd bring our rulers out, and, we'd go out every day until we finally saw a little sprout for them to chart. They take their journals out, they draw and they write about the progress or what they notice in the garden. And you can kind of see the journey of the planting, the watering, and then actually harvesting the crop. With it being a community garden with so many classrooms and so many children, we have to really establish the respect in our garden. We kind of have a rule, we can pick and we can touch, we can take care of our classroom bed. We can look and we can gently touch the beds of the other classes. We don't know what they have planned. A lot of times you'll see a nice ripe tomato, and of course, kids, they're going to go right towards it and want to grab it. And so that was something we really had to instill. And if we're curious about something or we want something out of another bed, we need to go to that class and ask them, is it okay if we have your tomato, or hey, could we trade you some lettuce for this tomato, and kind of barter. Most of the time the classes are excited and want to share their crops. Sometimes you have some classes that aren't. our class where we were cooking omelets one day, and they noticed some peppers in another bed, and they wanted those peppers so bad. They were so excited to see them. They went, their hand, I was like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We need to see whose bed this is, and let's go explain what we're doing and ask if we can have this pepper. And it was just neat, because the kids in the other class, you would think, no, we've been working on it so hard, that's ours, but they were just really grateful to share. So we cooked our omelet, we added the peppers, and then we took a little tiny sample down to each kid in the other class just to kind of show the gratitude. And I think that just the community among the classrooms and the children has been a really cool thing to envision, and how quick kids are to share and to give to their peers. In our garden, we also are partnered with the Grow It, Try It, Like It, where we have students from the high school come over to kind of introduce children to different foods. One that we did was spinach, and I remember a couple days later, I had this grandma come to my classroom, and she said, "What did you do?" And I thought, what did I do? What is she talking about? She said, "How did you get my grandson to eat spinach? He's been coming home wanting salad." And I was like, well, we kind of talked about it. We researched it. We planted some, and he tried it and he liked it. And that was, she said he's almost 5, and we could not get him to eat anything green. And now that is what he's asking for. And so I thought that was really cool to see how the garden had kind of opened the avenue and doors for children to want to try new things and learn that they like them. And I think part of it is because they are involved in the process. After our crops are gone, we harvest them, and it's kind of up to each class what to do with their crops. We do a lot of cooking. We also have an animal room at our school. Some of those go to feed the animals. And then we also have a table set up at the school for parents to pick up some, because we don't want them to go to waste. That's the most important thing that we talk about is, what are we going to do with this? Do we have a plan? And that was really cool to see the parents coming, and we have bags set out and they can get what they need. And everybody has been very respectful. We didn't know, do we put a limit? Do we make pre-bags? What do we do? And just kind of like the kids, it's kind of one of those things you're going to learn from the first time. We set it out, and luckily that was an avenue we never had to cross. Our family and children were very respectful about the amounts that were taken, where everybody that wanted some could get some. Right here, this class is, they're kind of investigating their sunflower. It took lots and lots of work to get it off the stalk. That was a challenge in itself, is trying different tools. It took about 3 days to actually get the sunflower off the stalk. They brought it to their classroom, and first they investigated. What did it look like? What did it smell like? And then they were able to taste the seeds straight from the plant. Some of the kids grafted them. Some of them used them in art. Parts of the seeds went over to our dramatic play zone, where they cooked with them with the plastic food. And it just gave it just the realisticness of that, of using a true food. That was what kind of triggered us to plant some herbs in our garden. And those herbs were then brought into our dramatic play zone, where the children, they're looking through cookbooks and they noticed, hey, this looks like this stuff we have growing. Can we go get some outside and bring it inside? And just the real raw play, where they were able to really get all the sensory aspects in with their play, instead of just a plastic piece of lettuce that really can only be a plastic piece of lettuce. They got to smell it, they got to see the texture, and just the care they took of it. We were like, okay, we're going to have one group of kids and then it's gone. But the true respect and appreciation has really surprised us all with the garden. Right here, we have got some okra and some little gourds, and we are doing still lifes. The still lifes are really cool, and it's all about the process instead of the product. They bring it in, they investigate it, they talked about the texture, they talked about the weight, they decided which way they wanted to set their object to draw. This also led into teaching different skills of, following directions, of mixing paint, of mixing colors, of how to properly clean your brushes, and just the avenue it leads to teach other skills that would have been not as meaningful as, you know, how to clean a paintbrush, instead of just, okay, here's water, let's dip it, let's rinse it, but really putting it to something tangible they could hold on to. And then it really evolved into creating 3D works of these okras and of the gourds. They went to clay and they formed the clay. The child with the gourd, I had one child that rolled the clay out, flattened the clay, and then formed it around the gourd to get the true texture of it. Where I had some that started with balls and then created the shape of the gourd. We, the past 2 years, we added chickens to our farm, and chickens are a lot of fun, but they are a lot of work. We didn't know what to do. We had all these eggs and we have 12 classes. Okay, how are we going to decide who gets the eggs and kind of where to go from there? So each class is given a week and we rotate. We have a little basket that we pass around, and the children that week are responsible for feeding the chickens, watering the chickens, putting out new hay, cleaning their pen, collecting the eggs. When it's raining, when it's hot, they really earn that responsibility of, this thing depends on me to live. And they love the chickens love them. We've cooked with the eggs. We have done raffles with the eggs. We had a little neighbor next door who was coming and taking the eggs. And so we went and offered the eggs to her, and she gratefully took them. But it's just, the chickens have brought a lot of life to our school. They've come and stayed in our classroom for a day. We talked about, okay, is this the proper care? Is this what a chicken really wants? And do you really want to clean up after a chicken in the classroom? So they quickly moved back outdoors. But really, we had several children at the beginning of the year that were terrified of the chickens. Hey, Colin. And just seeing them slowly get closer. Okay, I'm going to feed them. Okay, I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to put it through the fence and I'm going to pet it. Okay, I want to go in today. Can I go in today? And will you hold the chicken and then let me pet it? To them initially now being able to feel comfortable and confident around the animals, it's a pretty cool little journey to experience. In the summertime, we don't have kids at school, and a few of us teachers live at school, but we don't live in the garden. Fellowship Bible North actually takes care of our garden for us in the summer. They typically have a Good Eats program, and they go over, they care for the garden, and they use the crops to then bring over to the church, and they invite the families in, and they do cooking with the children and the families. They all sit down at the table together and have a meal together. And it's been a great partnership that we couldn't do without Fellowship North, with the district, or with the support from the city. We also, last year, we aligned with the Arkansas Hunger Alliance and took a Cooking Matters course. And it was 8 weeks for families to come in and to sit down, look at recipes, cook together, and then all sit down and eat together. And what we tried to do was incorporate the crops we had in our garden to bring over to use those to cook with instead of getting store-bought. Of course, we had to get some store-bought stuff, but we also were able to utilize some things from our garden to cook with. This summer, since Fellowship wasn't able to have their Good Eats program, we have been donating our food to the Potluck Food Rescue. And so that is just a picture of some of the lettuce that is then being taken over and delivered.
Any final thoughts, Lacy, before I pass it over to Heather?
It's just, the coolest thing about it is I'm an outdoorsy person, but I've never really been a gardening person. And so just what I've learned alongside with the kids has been very eye-opening. I'm able to grow things that I thought I can't keep anything alive except my pets. And so just learning alongside with the children it's just been really fun and really neat. And I think the kids hearing you say, I don't know, let's look and see, let's give this a try and see if it works. And just learning alongside them it's been really fun and insightful.
Well, Lacy, thank you so much for sharing all of that, and the photos were great. And one of my favorite takeaways was when you mentioned that it took 3 days for the class to figure out how to get the sunflower down. And I love that the children were a part of that process and brainstorming and solving that problem. So thank you for sharing all of that. We did have a question come in when you were speaking, actually, about if you're using galvanized tin to make the beds. So I wonder if you might be able to mention some of the materials that you use in the garden to build out the space.
What we did, we started with the galvanized tins. Like I said, we started small. We started by assembling those. We had families come in. We had church members, staff members stay late to get those assembled. We had the tractor come in and clear out some area. And then we started by placing gravel in the bottom. And then we put our super soil, and then we also put down the weed mats for them. But, we did the pea gravel to give it the drainage and system. But we also, I forgot to mention, we also got a drip irrigation installed. And then we are working on installing a sensory path in our garden. But let me open up the question and see.
Yeah, there was another question then of what size are those beds? And a further question, if you can share more about the type of super soil you used for those beds.
If you can get me their email, I can definitely get back to you on that, because I actually had a student whose parent worked at Plantopia, one of the nurseries, and I reached out to them and they donated some for it.
Sure, yeah, I will make sure to follow up with you, Lacy, so that we can get that information out. And then what size did you say the beds were? They look like they're about maybe 3 feet by 6 feet.
I think they're 4 by 6.
Okay, great. And Rip also jumped in to say that these gardens are great tools for teaching in all subjects like science and literacy and math and social and emotional skills. And so he was just adding in more of those. And I know that you touched on a lot of that in your presentation.
And one thing we do that I think is important, if children want to grow something that we know is not going to grow at this time of year, we don't stop them. We kind of let them learn from trial and error, and kind of see, and then talk about, okay, I wonder why this didn't work. I wonder why this was able to grow. I wonder why nothing is happening here. And that's a big part of it. My son, he wanted to grow a meatball. He thought that you grew meatballs, and his teacher said, okay, well, where do you get meatball seeds? He goes, you go to Kroger and you get them out of the bag, or you go to my mama's when she gets the meat out and the stuff, and you just take one of those. And so she let him plant it. And for 2 months straight, every day after school, we had to go out with our ruler and we had to look. He had a special marker for his meatball seed. And just the conversation, the learn, and letting him figure that out on his own, instead of just saying, you can't grow meatballs. Meatballs don't grow. They're not. But just the journey and the patience she had with him learning, and just a curiosity, and then going back. And now he's like, Mom, can you believe I tried to? And I'm like, it's cute. I enjoy it. And it was just something he was so thrilled and excited about, and just allowing them to have their thoughts and their curiosity, and then taking back and making the learning that comes from that, the perseverance, the determination, and the actual discovery of, those aren't meatball seeds.
What an incredible story. Oh my gosh, I love that. But it also speaks, to how you all are able to facilitate that sort of learning at Pikeview, that you're encouraging that curiosity, that student exploration, and then building in the space and time for these students to realize, oh, maybe a meatball doesn't actually come from a meatball seed. But I love that story so much. So thank you for sharing that with us. All right, well, I don't see any other questions that immediately came in, but know that if you have more questions for Lacy, we'll have some time at the end. So I'm gonna pass it to Heather now. So thank you so much, Lacy, for sharing about that. We're joined by Heather Rhodes Newburn, who's the Coordinated School Health Program Coordinator for the North Little Rock School District. She coordinates nutrition education and provides administrative support for school gardens within the district. And Heather received a Bachelor's of Science in Biology from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, after which she received a Master's of Public Health from the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences College of Public Health. So Heather, we're so excited you have joined us, and we're looking forward to learning a little bit more about coordinated school health across the district and how you have supported Pikeview in farm to early childhood education.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to be on this call. Ms. Lacy talked about a lot of the wonderful things that they do at Pikeview through coordinated school health. As you can see, there are a lot of different components, but the major ones that come into play when it comes to the school garden are nutrition, environment, and services, and then nutrition education, or the health education piece, and social and emotional climate. And so for us, Pikeview Early Childhood Center is our main early childhood center. It's the main campus. But we have other pre-K sites throughout our other schools in our district. And so we do have another school garden that is early childhood at 7th Street Elementary, where those teachers are doing some of the same thing. Ms. Lacy talked about the Fit to Live and how the garden got started at Pikeview. One of the things that really helped at Pikeview was that we had kind of a school model that was different, and that was the North Little Rock, the farm at North Little Rock Middle School. And KJ Kite and the East students there. And so they were able to kind of trail the way on how you do this. And so what we did was we got with Fit to Live, and you can go to the next slide. We got with Fit to Live, and we applied for a Fit to Live grant. Part of Fit to Live grant, part of the grant application is that you establish a MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding. And so that's where I came into play. Myself and Jody Edgerton, the coordinator at Pikeview Early Childhood Center at the time, we got together and started working on what the MOU needed to look like, especially for early childhood setting. You didn't know what was going to happen. The kids get to dictate kind of what you plan, and really didn't know what all we wanted to do with it. And so we helped to establish that MOU, which we took to our school board. But what we found was that all of our schools, every time they applied for a Fit to Live grant, they had to establish an MOU. And so for me, that's a barrier. And so in our district, we did put into our district wellness policy statements to help provide that agricultural support to all of our schools. So no matter if my position is cut, the policy is there. And so the district still is obligated to put the support behind it, the funds to go towards it. We have a number of community partners. I've been with the district for going into my 11th year in this position. And so when I first started, one of our biggest partners that I have to give kudos to, and I see a couple of the people that I know from the Extension Office on this call, is the Pulaski County Extension Office. So if you don't know your local Extension people, get to know them, because they are lifesavers when it comes to nutrition education. We were fortunate in our district that we already had a semi-partnership, but it was just strictly for our elementary students, grades K through 5th grade. And so with all the changes and everything, we established some different partnerships to address early childhood. And so Ms. Lacy talked about the Grow It, Try It, Like It program. The Grow It, Try It, Like It is a curriculum. It's a garden nutrition education curriculum to get kids to grow it, to try it, and to like it. And so we initially started off using the curriculum Color Me Healthy. And after a few years of utilizing that, our high school students who do our pure nutrition education, they got bored. And so they said, hey, Ms. Heather, is there something else out there that we can use? And so the Extension Office introduced us to Grow It, Try It, Like It. And through the Gourds Try It Like It program, it's a 7-week program where the high school students come. They teach a 20-minute lesson with the kids directly using the Farmer in the Dale song, but they incorporate a different fruit or vegetable each week. And in our district, we have lesson learned. We start off with the vegetables first, because we can always bribe the kids to get to try them first so they can get to the fruit. And so they try 6 different items, which are strawberries, peaches, cantaloupe, squash, and the yellow crookneck squash in particular, spinach, and sweet potatoes. And so this is the first year that we were actually able to, as a district, be able to put funds to support the nutrition education piece in a broader spectrum. Pikeview Early Childhood Center had the Grow It, Try It, Like It program, but over at 7th Street Elementary, they also were doing the Grow It, Try It, Like It program. In the Extension Office, due to their cuts, we're not able to supply the fruit or vegetable to try for both sites. So our district picked up the cost for 7th Street Elementary. And so with that, we also were able to introduce some locally grown sweet potatoes. Our sweet potatoes this year for the Grow It, Try It, Like It program at 7th Street came from the farm at the North Little Rock Middle School campus. And so we were super excited to do that, because the East students got to see the pre-K kids tasting their the vegetable that they grew, and then the high school students were doing the teaching. The beauty about the partnership with the Early Childhood Center for our district is that our high school students are getting education also. In order for them to be able to deliver the curriculum, they go through an extensive 2-day training where the first day they're going through the curriculum. They go over the everything that it is to know where it comes from, when is it grown, what does it look like in the grocery store, what does it look like in the ground, and what nutrients do you get from it. And that all comes from the extension office. We have a state-of-the-art family consumer science classroom, and so the students actually are able to cook right there in there. There are 5 different labs, kitchen sets set in there, and so they go through it. They make up their own songs or raps about the fruit or vegetable. Over the last couple of years, we've been able to record some of those, so it is truly going from pre-K, early childhood, all the way to high school. Even though this program is specifically for our early childhood students, it's affecting all of our students, and we're really, really excited for it. One of our other partners is ISEP. ISEP is a organization that does Medicaid billing, vision and hearing screening for our district, and we were able to apply for one of their grants because they do all our reimbursement for Medicaid, and they were able to give us a grant to go towards the Pikeview Early Childhood Center garden. Another partner is Central Arkansas Water. We were able to install a water meter there through our partnership with Fit to Live and Central Arkansas Water. And that just helps, of course, where Ms. Lacy was talking about teachers up there year round and the church, that just helps with the watering, because during the summertime, it gets hard. It gets hard. That's when the real work comes into play with the garden. And I'm like Ms. Lacy, I don't have very much of a green thumb, but I have learned a lot over the years. I've been able to grow banana peppers successfully, and they haven't died. And so because we want to make sure that we make that connection from the garden to home, we also offer parent cafes. At Glenview Elementary, we have 7 pre-K classes there, and I do what is called parent cafes, where we cook items that they learned about from the Grow Tribe Like It program. We utilize them, and basically we start off with just how to make your plate colorful. That's what we start off with the parents, how to make your plate colorful. And that's the picture you'll see there. That's at Pikeview. That's part of the early childhood parent cafe that we had at Glenview Elementary. And you'll see the parents, they're cutting up tomatoes at the time. And so for me, the parent cafe helps us to kind of see, okay, yes, we're introducing this to the students, but how are we gonna get this through to the parents? And so you will see here at this one, the kids are not in there yet, but the kids are in another classroom in another part of the school, and they're actually making a dish as well that's part of that meal for the night. So the families prepare the whole meal for the night, and then they eat together. And so what that does is that helps that parent to know, hey, my kid is willing to try this, so I don't have to worry about wasting my money on it. This is something else we can add new, and I can let my kid be a part of it. I am a testament that it really truly works. I've had 2 kids to go through Pikeview Early Childhood Center, and my oldest one, who is 8 now, she actually has a garden that she started this summer. Since we've been COVID-19 quarantine, she started in our backyard, and she's planted some different things. She's done some research. She's called and talked. Her grandfather is a farmer in Arkadelphia, and so she called him and said, well, you know, so-and-so is not growing, and I don't know what's happening. And he asked her, what did you plant with it? And so she's learning about how you can't plant certain things in the same area and that sort of thing. And then I have a 5-year-old who is a picky eater. Miss Lacy can attest to that. I know you guys saw him peep his head in, but because of Grow Tribe Like It, he's eating sweet potatoes now. He's eating spinach. Spinach is his favorite thing. But I will tell you that from the chickens being at the farm, at the garden, he has been worried about the chickens since we've been in COVID-19. And so from time to time, we have to drive by there to check on the chickens. And so the value of it is just so amazing. Another partner of ours is Killing Company. The Killing Company donated all of the irrigation for the drip system. They actually donated the equipment needed for that. He is a parent of a student in our district, and he has been very supportive of all of our school gardens. And I just can't say enough about them. And Miss Lacy talked about them giving the food to Potluck. And I just want to make that connection. We have a families in transition program that is for our families that are either homeless or needy or in transition, meaning that they're in temporary housing or something of that case. And so Potluck is one of our partners with our families in transition. And so I get the joy of every 2 weeks going up to the district office and helping distribute food from Potluck that they give to our families. And of that food, some of the vegetables and fruits that were donated have been brought back to our students. And so it just lets you show how the wheel just goes around and round, just bringing farm to school completely to a full circle. I know I touched on a lot of different things. And so if anybody has any questions, I think that's about it. That's the sweet potatoes that were grown up at the farm that were actually used for the Grow Tried Like It this year.
Heather, that was so great. Thank you for sharing all of those partnerships. And I know you were mentioning Fit to Live is a huge partnership. And so for some of our friends who are not in Central Arkansas, I'm not sure if we fully explained, but Fit to Live is a program out of the city of North Little Rock. So the city actually has created this initiative and focus of theirs, and they support school gardens all across North Little Rock School District. And then in addition, they also support some community gardens in the city as well. So I just wanted to make that. Go ahead, Heather.
Okay. And Fit to Live, I will tell you, Fit to Live was birthed out of the Communities Putting Prevention to Work grant back in 2009. Myself and at that time, Michael Drake was the person on staff, and Alderman Beth White in North Little Rock was very supportive of the Fit to Live initiative. It was birthed. We wanted healthy living and active living and healthy eating. And so that's what Fit to Live is all about. It encompasses not only supporting school gardens, but employee wellness is really huge. And so we actually passed both of our, the city and the school district passed a Fit to Live awareness campaign. And so part of that is that we provide farm to work. And so we actually work with a collaboration of farmers to deliver grocery products to school sites. If that staff say they want farmers to deliver, the farmer just lets me know what they're able to offer, and they deliver on this particular date, and they use Cash App and PayPal to pay for those items. So Fit to Live is very instrumental. I work very closely with the coordinator, Mr. Isaac Henry, and like I said, they're invaluable to our school gardens just because you can apply for the community garden funding on a rotating basis, and it's up to $5,000. So that's really, really, really good. Our city is willing to invest in our future. And because of that, we also have some staff gardens because of the Fit to Live garden grants.
Thank you, Heather, for adding that additional context in there. I mean, it's so important to always talk about funding and additional partnerships like you brought up. And it's so cool to see how the city has really been able to support the growth in the school district too. And I loved the piece that you shared too of how in the wellness policy, you know, there's something specifically written about agricultural education. And so then we can see longevity in farm to school efforts across the district. Great work. Well, thank you so much, Heather, and thank you so much, Lacy, for sharing specifically about Pikeview and then largely with North Little Rock School District. I know you had a lot of great information for us to digest on, and I want to make sure to create some space here for the next 10 minutes. We like to make sure that there's lots of time for questions or comments. So I'll stop sharing the screen so we can all see each other again. If you have questions for Lacy and Heather, feel free to either unmute yourself and share those, or you may also just add them into the chat box like I know we've been doing so far. So one thing that Lindsay Lloyd jumped in and said is that it's heartwarming to me is how much these gardens give kids the opportunity to take initiative and really exercise agency in their learning. Also, I love that y'all are able to call grandpa and learn about companion planting. So thank you for sharing that story. Nita said, very interesting program. Thank you to both of you.
Sarah, I want to share one additional funding resource that people might not be aware of, especially if they're working with a school garden. You have what is called RMAC funds. That's your Medicaid reimbursable funds that you get for personal care and such. And those funds can be utilized to go towards anything that's student wellness related, which a school garden directly is. And so that's another funding source that districts do have that they can utilize.
Heather, can you repeat the name of that again?
It's the RMAC, Arkansas Medicaid.
Perfect.
Funds.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, and you also mentioned, you know, getting grants from ISEP, some additional partnerships. Yeah, just because we're on that topic, either Lacy or Heather, would you jump in and share some of the other places that you found funding or materials over the past few years?
Through Fit to Live, they actually have tools and stuff that we can borrow if needed to do different things. So we have a little borrowing system where if we do need some equipment to do a certain thing, then we can borrow those from the city. Um, Other than that, as far as other funding sources, of course, the Arkansas Department of Agriculture, 2 of our gardens have been blessed to receive funding for that, Pikeview as well as the farm at North Little Rock Middle School.
And another thing valuable is just the relationships and connections we have, like through our children or families that we can reach out to that are willing and want to help. I have so many people that, what can we do? When's your next call? We want to be involved. Is there anything you need? So just not being scared to let people know when you need a helping hand, and just touching in on all the resources from different people.
Thank you both for sharing those. And I do want to point out that Leah wrote in the chat that she's a North Little Rock graduate, very proud of North Little Rock School District. So great. And Mevie Cox coming in saying great programs, thanks for sharing. Nita's asking if we're going to send out a link to the recording, and can we share it with other Master Gardener members? Yes, I will send out a link to the recording. Heather jumping in also as a North Little Rock graduate, and I believe Lacy, you are too, if you went to Pikeview. So
and I think Heather you went to Pikeview, didn't you, Heather?
No, I went to Amboy and Park Hill and Boone Park. Yeah, my sister did.
Your sister did, okay.
Yes.
I love it so much. And so back to, Nita, yes, I will be sending out a follow-up email that will include both Lacy and Heather will be copied on it in case you have further questions for them. And then I'll have a link to the recording as well as the slide set for you. And we could also, Lacy, if you're able to figure out the soil mix that you have, I can include that in the follow-up for everyone since we had that question. Well, we finished a bit early, so if people have any final comments or thoughts or questions, please feel free to share those right now. Otherwise, I'm going to give some snaps to Lacy and Heather for their great presentations and photos that you were able to pull together for us today to share about both Pikeview and North Little Rock School District. So thank you so much for teaching us, as you are also the experts in this and on the ground. And thanks to everyone else who were able to join today. We're glad that, and we hope that you learned something, and be on the lookout for a follow-up email from me with the slides and the link to the recording.